What's wrong with you? Sit your ass down. Sit down. Shut up. What up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Danny, and welcome to the clown world. Alright. I never thought that this was going to happen, but it did happen. Now, some people will ask me, why do you care so much about American politics? I had this question a few days ago from a friend of mine. And I say to my friend, whatever happens in America affects sometimes the rest of the world. If America has a policy that's against some other countries, it affects you, it affects me. So yes, this is why I'm interested in American politics. And this is also why I'm supporting Mr. Donald J. Trump. And if you have something against that, that's your problem. Anyway, Kamala Harris went to Fox News and she did an interview. I haven't seen this thing. I have seen some videos of people are saying it was a train wreck. Then also I have on the Democrat side, people are saying that the way she reacted was good. She did this, she did that. I haven't seen it, so let's watch.
The time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you...
Donald Trump has been on CNN, Fox News, all these places. He has been there. He has done them all. I think the next one he's going to do is Joe Rogan. He has done them all. This woman only has about maybe 2 to 3 weeks to go before the election happens in America. This is why she's out here.
Estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions...
I'm not finished. We have an immigration...
This is what happened, people, when you go to a news media that doesn't side with your side. A news media that's not afraid to ask you the questions that's supposed to ask you. It's the same thing when Donald Trump goes to CNN and he gets questions asked that they might not ask him on Fox News.
An estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
and
they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising,
okay,
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see how condescending she is? She's doing this like, I need to finish. Like, bruh, you're here on an interview. You're going to answer questions. Just answer the questions. Do you regret your policy that you did? Yes, we regret it. Yes, we wish that we didn't do the things the way that we did it.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungary's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about...
Then if you're sorry for her loss, you should have made sure when you came into power, because I've seen the video where Joe Biden is signing papers on his desk the first day that he went into that office, and he's saying, I'm going to get rid of some of these border policies, blah.
What is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions? Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster.
If they coming to America from Mexico, why can't they just apply for asylum in Mexico? Then they will see if they get granted to enter America. Because if you come legally, it's legally. Like, bro.
The support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
there were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock.
What I don't get is on the border bipartisan bill that they brought in, you got, I think, about 8 or 9 Democrats, as Brett just showed, that they voted against it. Her own party voted against the bill. Obviously, they didn't see anything in there that they might want to have.
I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in
so
black and white.
would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing.
You can say the guy doesn't have a plan, but yet here you are stealing his plans.
On the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American
we'll
people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker.
But where is the money coming from? All this money she wants to spend, where is the money going to come from? Who is going to give her this magical money in a box? Maybe they should stop supporting Ukraine and maybe other countries that are murdering other people around the world. Maybe they should stop doing that. Maybe then the money is going to be there. But for now,
would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of. Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last
that is a good question.
decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach
I don't get it. It's like Democrats and Republicans never liked each other anyway. So I don't see what she's talking about. Like, bro, like that's not the question. The question is not about Donald Trump. The question is, you said you want to turn the page. But you've been in power this last 4 years. What are you turning the page from? Because if she was proud of her policies and everything that they have implemented, she would know. She would say, I'm not changing anything. I am very happy with how everything is going. And therefore, we're going to continue this trend.
to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
People don't care about rhetorics. People care about what you're going to do. Why is she talking about rhetorics?
10% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
Bro. Yo, she can't run away from it. She can't run away from it. Like, yo, listen, yeah. She's been with Joe Biden for the last 3 years, and they have been messing up the world and messing up their own country. Now she says she want to turn a new page. You turning a new page on what? What do you think was so bad that your leader Joe Biden was doing so wrong that you gonna do better? Don't say Donald Trump. Donald Trump wasn't in power the last let's say 4 years.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief.
She's basically talking about the rhinos. She's talking about the rhinos, the government plant, those people.
Chief of Staff to the President, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, National Security Advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances.
Why is she making it about Donald Trump, though? The question wasn't about Donald Trump. The question was, you said, oh my days, what the hell is she talking about?
And it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about
I don't think Americans are going to the poll to vote for the most kindest person in the world. I don't like what? They're not going to vote for the kindest person in the world. They're going to vote for the president, the person who's going to fucking be in charge of their life the next 4 years. He doesn't have to be kind and cuddly, okay? He doesn't. A leader doesn't have to be kind and cuddly and sweet and whatever. Come on. Bro, are you crazy? Like, which world do you have leaders that's kind and cuddly? You think people are going to listen to that person?
enemy within, an enemy within talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
That is a lie. That is a fat. That is a lie.
I asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the...
All right, listen. Her party has been investigating Donald Trump since the man said he's going back in the race. They're investigating him. They want to destroy his businesses. They want to destroy his family. They're going after this man. They tried to kill him twice, maybe 3 times last time. I'm not so sure, but they're going after him. They're doing everything they can do to make this man disappear. And he's still here. Now, do you want to tell me that is a weak leader to you? Because I don't see weakness. I see someone who is actually strong and stay. Do you know how many people would have already said, no, I'm not doing this, after they missed him twice to kill him? Twice. He would be like, listen, my family told me, blah, 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 blah. I'm stopping this. I don't want to die. I want to see my grandkids grow, all that. The man is still here, still rocking, still kicking. And she's not answering the question.
American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy.
This woman, I'm telling you, like the Democrats, they are like master jujitsus. They have been going after this man. After everyone that was supporting Trump, that worked for him, that were say denying the elections whatsoever, they have been going after all these people, and some of them are in prison. They are the one locking up. They are the one locking up the opposition. They're locking up the opposition in prison, and then they're saying that the opposition is coming after them. You've been doing to this man the same thing that you are screaming and saying that he's going to do to you for the last 4 years. That who you lying to?
And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America.
Oh, she's raising her voice. Oh, she's raising her voice.
Should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump...
The significance of that.
You call Donald Trump... he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people. Joe Biden.
You know what? Yeah, I personally feel like Joe Biden's not even in charge. I'm not gonna lie. I personally feel like Joe Biden, he is not even in charge. That's what I feel. The man is not himself. He's always on a holiday. He's always eating ice cream. I mean, I like ice cream too, don't get me wrong. Especially a good one. And then if the Oreos, that's the best shit ever. But what I'm trying to say is the man has the man is never there. There's world crisis going around right now in the world. And Joe Biden, I bet you, is not even in the White House.
Concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And
but,
Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who
Deflection. Don't answer the questions. Just keep deflecting.
who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all
The same, was it 25 or 100 and something leaders of national security people that came and said Hunter Biden's laptop is not real.
all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous. And
this is going to make the people of America want to vote for this man more, because you don't answer the question, you beat around the bush, and then you sit here, you're saying the guy's unfit, whilst you and your party kicked the president out of the ballots, even though that people actually wanted him, but you guys decided that, no, let's just do a coup on him. And then say it's not a coup. The guy is still a president, but it's not running for president.
Should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend.
I don't hate this woman. I have nothing to gain from this woman. I will not mess with the Democrats because of what I've read about the Democrats, and because they are the Dixiecrat, because they are the KKK and all that stuff. That's why I don't mess with the Democrats. And also I feel like they don't believe in God, right? And it baffles me as a black man, and the media doesn't want to talk about this because it's not the agenda. The agenda is to keep you dumb and numb as much as they can.
Defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that
Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it because
is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has,
all of this money
has treated and
has
talked about
gone in the
America's
past few
military
years,
and military service people,
critics
calling
say
them
that it goes to
suckers and
Hezbollah,
losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and Houthis.
the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about.
But just because you think something is the facts to you does not mean it's the facts. You see what I mean, right? Like what?
The choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why we invited you here.
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com. And you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
and that's why we invited you here
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap here.
Well, I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By you just screaming Donald Trump is bad, Donald Trump is Hitler, it's not going to work with everybody. You know, people are tired of that bullshit. People are tired of that. I think the best thing she could have done is go there with her policy, say what she wants to say, do her thing, which she did half of it. But by just sitting here going like Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, I don't know. But anyway, if you guys like this video, press like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.